Well, as you can see, I got two carburetors sitting on a workbench. This one right here is off of a 1982 Ford F100 with the oh so thrilling 3.8 V6 in it. I really wish this guy would have gotten lucky and got a 300 or a 302 or something, but this is what we got. This carburetor right here, I believe the floats are severely misadjusted on it, and it also seems to be leaking gas back into the engine after it's done running, which can usually mean an abnormally high float bowl. Or I'm kind of suspect about these two plugs here because supposedly the previous owner rebuilt the carburetor, and it kind of looks like somebody maybe put those back in and didn't put any JB weld on it. So what I want to do to test this thing out is I'm going to take the top off of it, and on these Motorcraft 2100 series, I guess this is what it would be called. It's 6 screws in your top plate here. And honestly, you can actually do this with the carburetor on the engine and the engine running, kind of like you can with an Edelbrock carburetor. And as long as your floats are adjusted pretty good, you won't get engine all over, or won't get gasoline all over your engine and set your entire neighborhood on fire for being silly and running a carburetor with no top on it. But I've already got my choke lever removed off of here, and this was actually off last night. But what I want to do is, now that we got it home on the bench, I want to fill the float bowl up with gasoline and see if it in fact leaks out. So I'm going to put this up on something and test it. So what I got here is I got some of that old crappy gas that I pulled out of the S10 when I was working on it. I keep it around to clean parts and start fires and stuff like that with. I just want to take and fill my float bowl up until the float stops moving. Which is right there. And I'm going to let this thing sit for 15 or 20 minutes, and I want to see if anything actually leaks out of it through those drain holes, or try and figure out where the gas is coming from. Now, another problem that I have is on this carburetor that we pulled off of our 302. We were at the guy's house putting the carburetor on, and James Jr. was tightening the fuel filter down with a pair of large channel locks because the dude's house that we were at, he doesn't want to make a commitment to buy an adjustable wrench for some reason. I don't get it. People are strange. But yeah, James got a little overzealous, and he snapped the fuel filter off. So I have to try and get that out. What I'm going to do is I'm going to pull the top off of this carburetor too. I want to pull my float out of it. I want to pull my needle and seat out of it. And I want to put something down in that hole because I'm going to come in here and drill this out. And I don't want to get metal particles into the needle and seat and potentially screw this carb up, because this is a very good carburetor. Alright, so on these carburetors, it's just like the other one. 6 screws. It comes right off. And there's a little, see if I can get you in the camera here. There's a little, I guess I can see where the hell it was. There we go. There's a little clip here that goes over top the needle in the seat. You need to just bring that back a little bit, bring it up, and your needle or your float will come out. And the next thing I want to do is I want to pull the needle and seat out of it, but I need to get a bigger screwdriver for that so I don't strip it out. Okay, so I found a screwdriver and took my needle and seat out, which goes here. And what's going to be happening is, since I'm drilling this hole out where the fuel filter goes, the first place it would go is right where the needle and seat are. So I'm going to find a screw or something like that that I can put down there, maybe 1 or 2 threads, just to keep all my drill crap from getting put through the carburetor. Because as you can see, before we put this on the truck, we're going to be cleaning this out a little bit. I'll probably double check the power valve to make sure it's not leaking. But this was always a very well-behaved carburetor, so I don't see any reason why it shouldn't work. Found a bolt that's relatively similar in size, not exactly the same thread, so I didn't screw it in there. I got maybe one thread, just enough to catch it. And now I'm going to go round up my assortment of drill bits and drill this out. So after drilling that out, I did get an easy out in there, and I did manage to get it out while Junior was tapping on the backside of the easy out while I was putting even pressure on it. You got to watch out putting easy outs in because they're tapered, and this is like a steel plug going into an aluminum or a pot metal housing. If you expand it too much, you can blow it apart and actually crack the car, but luckily I am pretty sure we did not do that this time. Okay. Alright, so we picked up a brand new fuel filter for this thing. The first couple outside threads were a little tiny bit boogered, but after us taking it back and forth a few times, it did screw in and it did seat, and we put a little blue Teflon tape on there just to be on the safe side and seal the threads up. Before I put the top back on the carburetor, I filled it up exactly the same way I did this one and checked my float level. And on these, general rule of thumb is you want the top of your float to be just about even with the top of your wall. And all the ones I've seen running, usually your float levels, your fuel level stays down pretty low in these things. The way this was before, this was almost even with the top wall. That's how bad it was off. And as you can see, I've had this one sitting for probably about a half hour now, and no fuel's leaked out of it, so I just have to attribute that to an extremely high fuel level as to why this thing was leaking down into the throat when it was parked. So this one gets to officially be a scrap carburetor because I don't need it. And this one's going to be going on to our friend's truck, which we're about to take up there and do this now and see if this thing wants to run any better. So probably get some footage from up there too. Alright, so we went up and threw that carburetor on the truck yesterday, and it got dark, and dude lives in like the darkest trailer park in the world. But the truck did start up and run and idle, and it even started after it got hot. I'm sure we're going to have to look at it again, but it's running for now, and that's about the best we could do on it with it being like 40 minutes away from the house. I hate like working away from the shop because you always need something you got in the shop. So that was it on the Motorcraft 2100 series 2-barrel carb on that truck. This is James from All Hail Internal Combustion. Like and subscribe, and we will see y'all next time.